Everybody ready to go? This joint meeting of the Ewing Board of Education will be held Monday, February 25th in compliance with the Open Meetings Act, which is over on the door over there. Greg, you take roll.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Present.
We're just going to go ahead and approve the agenda, then we'll move on. Does that work? I need a motion to approve the agenda as it is.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Jason, second. Jason beat you to it, Ed.
All right.
Pete?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Jason? Jeremy?
Candy, would you go ahead? Whoever. Flip the coin.
Okay.
Yep, I'll call the Clearwater original board meeting to order at 2 p.m. Welcome. Opens Meeting Act is over there on the board. We don't do roll call. I do need a motion to excuse Regina. Marty makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Tom seconds.
Aye.
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 Aye. And then I'll take a motion to approve the agenda. Brian makes a motion. Marty seconds. Brian? Tom?
Aye.
Marty? Aye. Brett, Stephen? Okay.
I'll call the Orchard original board meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. The Open Meeting Act is posted over there on the wall. We thank you all for coming. We have no one absent. Need a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Christie,
I'll second.
second by Nate. Aye. Christie?
Aye.
Deanna? Nate? Terry? Tara?
Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for coming this evening. Thank the Clearwater Board and the Orchard Board for accepting Ewing's Board of Education's invitation to meet this evening to discuss the future of our schools. Before we have a public comment period, our board has asked me to go through some of the reasons why they feel that this group of schools, Clearwater, Ewing, and Orchard, putting them together makes sense at this time. And it's the same sheet that you should have had at the entry when you came into the gym. The agenda was posted on one side, and then we listed CEO of public schools just in alphabetical order just for reference at that point, and why we think this is important. And then at this point, then we will allow public comment at that time. We'll pass the microphones around, as well as there's a microphone at the stand if you want to come forward and speak. Obviously, when you talk about these things, it's very difficult and emotional decisions for everyone, and we've listed some of the reasons why we feel that is, because there's 4 things that are really important to everyone in this building tonight, or else they wouldn't be here. And those are our kids, our schools, money, and our communities. We feel that this consolidation of the Clearwater, Ewing, and Orchard, the number one reason to do it is because it will be good for kids. And some of the reasons listed, you may not agree with all of these, and I'm sure there are many more reasons as well. But some of the reasons we have listed here, obviously, we feel that we have a better curriculum for all of the students. And that's not saying that we don't already have great curriculums at our school at Orchard, Clearwater, and Ewing, but we think we can even do better. You can have more curriculum choices for all of our students, college and career ready, greater educational opportunities for all of our students. The schools may be able to attract and retain high-quality staff members, more career academies for students, better offering and a wider variety of extracurricular activities. Listed many of the student organizations that may be available. You'd have up-to-date academic and athletic facilities, athletic opportunities at all different levels for students, and will provide competition academically and athletically for all of our students. We also believe this will be good for all three communities. Why will it be good for all three communities? It will ensure that each town retains its identity with a school, CEO. A centralized location will give ownership to all three communities. Will provide a high-quality education and facility for all three communities for the foreseeable future. We'll not need to address the same issue every few years like we have currently been doing. And the consolidation will stabilize class sizes across all three school districts. Last thing, why is the time now? Studies show that it is economically feasible for all three communities. Interest rates are relatively low at this time. The cost of building a new school is not going to get cheaper in future years. And with the timelines that are in place with the unified agreement, now would be the perfect time. If we wait for the perfect time, it will never happen. There's never going to be a perfect time. And change is difficult, but hopefully with change comes progress. So those are some of the things that our board came up with. Again, this is not all-inclusive list, and I'm sure there's many things that could be added to this, but it's the reason why we invited both Clearwater and Orchard to the table at this time. So with that, I think the next item on the agenda is the public comment and participation. We can hand a microphone around, or if anyone has a comment, they can come down to the podium there.
Mr. Appleby, may I ask, what were the results of the informal questionnaire that was handed out at Orchard?
Robert Johnston asking, what was the informal results of the questionnaire that was handed out at Orchard the other evening?
The survey that was at our community meeting, we had 128 people that responded to that. 85 were not in favor of pursuing this, and 43 were in favor of pursuing building and consolidation.
That's a response of 128 out of over 700 voters, so we had less than 17% response, so you want to keep that in mind as well.
I guess I'm gonna ask a couple questions maybe about taxes and stuff that was noted on. First of all, if I figured this correct, in the meeting in, I believe it was January in Clearwater, the guy stood up, and it's a number that keeps sticking in my head that I cannot get out of my head. Because I don't know where all three of these boards see the school in the next 10 years, but he said that the average building cost every year increases 3.2%. And at 3.2% plus what our interest rate is, there's no way that we could ever save enough money or ever get out in front of this. So correct me if I'm wrong, from what I understand is if we wait 1 year and decide to do this next year, it's gonna cost our taxpayers another $960,000, correct? So every year that we drag our feet, it's $960,000 more. My next question is I don't understand why nobody's talking about this windmill deal that's moving between Clearwater and Ewing that could pay for over half of the school and maybe at least half of the building based off the numbers and estimates I'm getting. If anybody can clarify that, I'm just curious.
I have not talked to anybody from the windmills, I don't know.
I did, but their projections are right.
projections are right. With Clearwater Ewing Orchard valuation, it comes to about 9 1/3 cents reduction per year. That's figuring 450 megawatt on the 2 wind farms. So that'd be probably about half of the building.
Mr. Funk,
Yes, sir.
what two wind farms you're talking, Thunderhead?
Thunderhead 1 is being done now. Thunderhead 2 is the one they're gonna do next. And he told me they had 600 and some meg spoken for in that deal. Part of that'll be in Elgin, part of it'll be in Chambers, but the bulk will be Clearwater Ewing. And I estimated 450 in those 2 districts. You don't know until it's built though.
Anybody else?
I have something to say.
My name's Mark Walton. I'm a very proud Clearwater High School graduate from the 70s. And I've lived in Ewing, I married a gal from Ewing, and I love it here. We raised our family here. This discussion was had in the 60s when I was in high school. And it didn't go anywhere, and it should have. Everybody's afraid to lose their school. I understand that. But if we don't do something, we're going to lose more than our school. The problem isn't with the kids. The problem is with the people in the stands. And I'm not naming any one person. But we have got to figure it out. Thank you.
Anyone else? Going once? Okay.
Next item on the agenda is number 7, new business. A is a discussion of possible action on OCE Sports Activity Co-op beginning 1920 school year. B is a discussion and possible action on school consolidation. C is discussion and possible action to proceed with an RFP for an architect, construction manager, at-risk company, and a financial agent. My comment on this is I think A and B are joined at the hip. I think they go hand in hand. I'm assuming if you're for one, you're for the other. So I guess speaking for myself, I plan to vote yes on both of them. Any other comments from either board?
I tend to agree with the comments that Mark Walton made a little while ago. I've heard this was up on the table in the 60s, the 70s. I know it was here in the 90s. And I think it's time to stop being afraid of what could be or what we could be losing. And I think it's time to move forward and reach out for those good things that can happen if we come together.
Any other discussion?
I would have to disagree.
I would have to disagree with that. I think we need to start with the co-op no matter what, to show that everybody's willing to stay working together. I have always thought we should work together. I have never closed the door on Ewing or Clearwater or Orchard working together. And I feel like if one doesn't happen, then the other should, I don't feel like they have to be together for one to happen and the other. Because why am I being made to do something if the other isn't going to happen? Or vice versa?
I guess my thought is I feel the future is in the consolidation. So, and basically, my opinion, the vote for B is actually a vote for C at the same time. All we're doing on a consolidation vote tonight is it gets us to that construction manager, the architect, things like that.
Okay, so say we all agree to this and the bond doesn't pass, are you still willing to co-op with us and tell?
Well, if we vote and pass the sports co-op tonight, yes, we're in for the 2 years at least.
Now, it's been brought to my attention that we could possibly do it for longer. 2 years is the state, yes.
Yeah.
But we could do it, we could say like 6 or 8. If each board agrees to it, you could do it. You would still take it to the state every 2 years, but each board could do that.
Co-ops have to, co-ops have to be approved by the NSA every 2 years.
I understand, and I agree with that. But we could, as boards, agree to do it every 6 years, then it would just be a rubber stamp to the state every 2 years.
I'm not familiar with anything that's been, is there somewhere else that's done that? Is there anyone else in Nebraska that's done? Co-ops are 2-year agreements as written in the NSAA Constitution. They can't be more, they can't be less. 2 years.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with that, because I know it would have to go to the state every 2 years. But if we were in for it for the long haul, it shouldn't matter how many times we do it, or how long we do it.
Right, but this co-op would actually, if you approve item A and item B, and a bond issue passes next fall, this co-op's only a 1-year deal.
Exactly.
Because then the next year we're one school. And I would say, and I talked to our board about this too, and with the co-op of activities, we talked about possibly, and the other administrators maybe could address this, about possibly not including speech, play production, or music, just because of logistics purposes for those. I know our speech kids practice at 6:30 in the morning, and they practice until 2 minutes until the first bell talks the first bell rings, and the play production they practice early in the morning or when everybody's done with football and volleyball practice. It's a tougher type of deal. Not that we wouldn't want to do that. We just thought until we're all together under one building, those may be a little bit tougher thing to do.
So what do we do if we get this construction cost and it's way higher than what we feel we can afford? What do we do then? How do we know what the cost is going to be? Can we not do A, skip B, and do C once we get a price? And if it's a cost that we can afford as 3 communities, then look at B and putting it to a vote. Right now, we don't even have a dollar figure. We don't know what we're working with. Are we working with 20 million? Are we working with 30 million? Are we looking at 40 million? I don't know nobody can give us an answer unless we actually get these numbers pinned down.
Well, I guess other than the feasibility study numbers would be at least a launching point or a base point to go from. And I guess if B passes, then we go to C and we hire an architect and we get that answer.
I did talk to attorneys today about some of these issues, and item B is an item to approve or possible action on school consolidation moving forward, but actually your consolidation doesn't become official until you have a consolidation agreement that is agreed upon and signed by all boards and presented to the reorganization committee in the state of Nebraska. So this is really a motion to proceed with the consolidation talks, which is contingent upon the passage of a bond issue. But at some point, you're going to have an agreement in front of you, if this goes through, that's a consolidated agreement that the Orchard Board's going to have to approve, the Ewing Board's going to have to approve, and the Clearwater Board's going to have to approve. That has all of the particular details of what this consolidation is going to look like and what the particulars of it are going to be.
Under normal circumstances, when other school districts have done this, what has been normal for the time period of school consolidation? Is it at bond passage, or is it when the building is complete?
I can't say exactly, maybe, but I know a lot of schools have already then agreed to build a building after the fact. They've probably been sharing buildings or something like that.
I've seen scenarios where schools have been consolidated for, say, 5-6 years, and then they build. But in this scenario where we're voting tonight, contingent on a bond, at what point do we become consolidated?
I guess the way I think you vote to do this, I'll take it all to a bond at that point in time. By finalize your consolidation, once your bond's been passed, if that's what's contingent upon that. To me, if you decide to do this, and we're going to take it all the way to a bond, and if the bond passes, you're going to have your consolidation agreement in the works up until that time to finalize, okay, the bond is passed, then you look forward to passing that agreement as has been drawn out by the attorneys and agreed upon. I'm assuming if this goes forward in whatever capacity it goes forward in, we're going to be having some of these discussions along the way about the agreements. There's lots of things to talk about, different policies, different issues that are going to happen. So it's going to be an ongoing process. But to me, that agreement is assigned until after the bond has passed or failed.
Well, and here's my concern is the bond passes, and it takes 2 years, and Stephen, you probably know better what we'd be looking for a time frame. But let's just say it takes 2 years. In that meantime, as soon as the bond passes, I just lost a 5th grade teacher. Is that going to be up to us as this board to hire a new 5th grade teacher, or is that going to be the new board?
I think it's going to be kind of up to the attorneys how they draw things up as time goes along, which you don't have an agreement, but in the process, a lot of those questions are going to be asked. You're right, Nate. Who's actually controlling what's going to go on? But I also, on the flip side too, a little bit, is I don't think there's probably anybody here that wants to consolidate without the talk of building a school. I don't think that's probably anybody's first choice to go ahead and do that, because then if that doesn't pass, then we're still back to 3 buildings open, we're not saving any money, we're back to exactly where we started, if that's the case.
I think there's a question of, if you're not consolidated as soon as the bond passes, how do you start collecting taxes to start your construction process? So I think that's, if you're consolidated when that bond passes, then you can start collecting money to pay for to get the actual construction started. I'm not quite sure, but I think that's an issue of, you would want to be consolidated
Well, yeah,
when the bond passes.
There's going to be things that a consolidated board needs to make decisions on.
Right.
That if you don't consolidate at that point, I mean, how are they going to be made?
Right, I think we're looking at it as you would be consolidated when that bond passes.
with running 3 individual districts until, three separate locations, I guess, until the new building is complete, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's personally my opinion of, I wouldn't want to, so you'd obviously finish out the school year that you're in, and then your building isn't gonna be built the next year. So, my personal feelings are, yeah, just run our 3 schools as is until you can move in to the new one as one, because I don't want to shuffle kids here and kids there for temporary.
I agree.
That's my opinion.
Okay, my question is, if the bond doesn't pass, what is our plan B? And I know that isn't something, I don't want to decide that tonight because there's too many emotions, but I think that's something we need to, if this goes through, A and B, that's like Mark said, C. I don't think tonight is the night that we should decide what plan B is. I think we should set it up. If it goes through, come back in a month or so, each board goes back and discuss, then comes back with ideas. Because I don't think tonight would be a night to try to plan this and plan B also. But I do feel we do need to have a plan B if that does not pass. Does that agree with, does everybody kind of agree with that, or does somebody else have a plan B?
I would agree with you, because, yeah, there is, for us, being unified, March 18th is the decision, you're in or out on unified is what we were last told. What is plan B? So if we go through this and it passes, and we get to the election and it doesn't pass, where does that leave Orchard? Where does it leave Clearwater? Where does it leave Ewing? I don't believe that Clearwater, their first choice is to be by themselves. It never has been. I don't know what anybody else is thinking. Ewing's been used to it for a long time, but can we even, and this is probably a question for you, Mr. Martin, can we even get an agreement done to reunify at that time, if that's even possible?
Well, I think that's a
Question.
learn how to work the mic here. You'd think I'd know after all these years how to do that. Question is, what's the timeline a little bit on doing some things? Well, with unification, we need to get to that same reorganization board that Greg was talking about, either a plan for, that consolidation, or if it's not that, could be a plan for that either reunification or a different unification. Last time that we did that, we got it to them in January, at their January meeting, for them to approve, and it was a rubber stamp because it was the same agreement basically, with just a few wording changes within it. We're talking here now, it's March as a due date. Could that be moved a little bit? It could be if the unified board chooses to do that. If you're talking November and nothing is changed on the agreement, it's probably not that big of a deal. If it's changed to 10, that might be somewhat short time to get some things done. Not that it couldn't be done, but you'd have to get after it pretty hard.
So if we were to have a bond vote in, say, September, and it failed, you could still potentially do a reunification agreement then, or for September, October?
Potentially you could, right.
Okay. So I guess a potential plan B would be if it does fail in the September, October vote or whatever, you can still reunify at that point.
I think another thing you need to take a look at is why did the bond fail? Did it completely bomb? Is it that the communities don't want to do it at all, or did it pass 2 communities and just barely fail another? Maybe it's a a $30 million bond. Maybe that 30 is too high for that community. Maybe if you took, if you have a performing arts part of it, and so you took that off the bond and it came down to 28 million, maybe that would pass. I think you'd have to look at your results to see what the reason was that it failed, and then be able to maybe make a decision based upon that data. Just an idea.
So when you say we could reunify, does that mean Ewing would be into reunifying with us? Or are you going to stand on your own?
Or would you consider it? We said we weren't gonna go.
We haven't truthfully talked about it.
Okay, yeah, and like Christy said, I don't think that has to be decided tonight, but it's just important to us that not knowing where the bond would go, that if we're going to dedicate to each other to work on this and put the kids together sports-wise and go towards something, then if I'm gonna put in that time and effort and educate my community on that, and it doesn't fail, then I agree with you that if it, whatever town it fails in, or if it fails in two, all three towns have to re-vote, correct? Not just the town that it failed in. Then that's fine. I don't wanna keep trying and trying every 6 months. That's gonna be exhausting, but I've said over and over that I want stability. I'm tired of all these meetings. I'm sorry, but I'm to the point of exhaustion and just want what's best for the kids and the communities, and that's not always an easy answer, but it's very important to us to have a plan B, and so that's why we propose, if this does take a little time, can we make a 4-year co-op commitment, just that in that time, that's one less thing that we have to deal with that has to come around, because football will be next year, so we already have to, hopefully we get to that point, we'll already have to have that discussion next year. So I'm just trying to simplify things. We all need something here. We're asking for a commitment from each other. Mr. Martin thought as a board, we did ask him that you could, as a board, make a motion for longer than 2 years to co-op. Yes, NSAA paperwork is a 2-year, but then administration, it could be a rubber stamp. It would not have to come back to the board. So again, we're just asking for more commitment. And yes, if you consolidated, the consolidation would void the co-op. If our plan is to be together, then let's be together.
I guess I hadn't considered a longer than a 2-year option. I hadn't,
Just an idea.
I guess we've always been based off a 2-year deal, so that's all I'd ever considered really. So.
Just something we came up with.
But am I understanding you right? You're saying co-op on contingents of a consolidation, which is on contingents of a bond, right? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, yeah, but your timeline, you're gonna vote, if you vote on a co-op tonight to approve that, okay, item A, and you vote to continue your action on consolidation, okay, then like tomorrow, okay, the athletic directors, Shelley and Eric and Jim Shutt and myself, we've got to put schedules down, and you're telling us tonight that we're co-oping. That means we're C2 in volleyball next year, and maybe they can shake their head yes if they agree. We got to get those schedules put together, because you want to put a schedule that's competitive, that's C2. You don't want to be playing an all D2 schedule if you're a C2 team. We've been getting emails from Wisner Pilger on tournaments that might be open for this and that, and we kind of just kept them in our inbox, so if they're ones that we have to address. Because then the co-op's going to go forward if you approve it tonight. Okay? Consolidation really is not going to be officially approved until next October or November, when there's a bond vote, when you have an agreement from the lawyers that says this is what your new school district's going to look like, this is where your board members are going to come from, this is how many board members you're going to have, but the co-op will be going.
Okay, that was my question, because the way you made it sound before is that A and B went together, and B is contingent on the bond. So I just wanted to make sure that you were willing to start co-oping as soon as next year, even if, the bond doesn't pass before then, of course. But that's what I just wanted to clarify. You are willing to co-op.
Well, just timeline-wise, that's the way it is. Because this bond vote can't take place before June 1st. by June 1st, we have to say that we're gonna be in a volleyball co-op. So but your vote on the bond won't take place till, I don't know, in September, October, November. Kathy, Mike, am I making sense here?
I think the question I would have,
As you're talking about that, Greg, does that then include all the sports, beyond just the fall sports? Does it include the winter and the spring sports as well for that 2-year commitment? That's a yes. Okay, that's just what I was thinking as we were talking.
I think that the item B and wanting action on the school consolidation it's not a formal consolidation, but it's an act of commitment to each other that we are going to take this all the way to a bond. Like, we're going to do all the rest of this stuff, put the whole package together, take it all the way to the public vote. That is what we're committing to, instead of not 3 or 4 months down the road and the building comes in at 30 million and then we call it quits. No, it's a commitment tonight to take it all the way through, all the way to the end. And like Greg said, it's not a formal consolidation, but it's a commitment to take this to a formal consolidation. It's got to go to the public to vote, and that's what we're saying tonight is that if we agree on the school consolidation, that's what we're asking for, is all 3 boards' commitment to stay in it all the way until the whole package is put together and we take it to the public for a vote.
I agree very much with what you said. I think what we have here is a reversal of the desires and intents of a couple of 3 different schools. I think Ewing, Clearwater will go for both, the co-op and a consolidation. What we're asking from the other board is simply, will you go ahead with us into this consolidation phase, go down the list here eventually and pick out an RFP, come up with a legal firm to help us put together the specs that we decide collectively after we have decided to pursue this to the ultimate vote whenever that may occur. If we don't get it done to vote by November, it's next February, a year from now before we vote, so be it. But we're making that stride to getting to the finish line till we have at least one vote from the public, from the 3 communities to determine whether this is going to work or not.
Any other comments? None?
Is it going to be more than a 2-year commitment, so we don't have to go through this every 2 years on the co-op? Because it's not like fun.
Well, like Greg said, hopefully it's just a 1 year. But no, I think as far as I'm concerned, just a 2-year sports co-op to start would be best.
I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of sounds like you guys want to form a co-op because you need students to form a co-op, but the consolidation really isn't in your interest right now. Is that what I'm getting from this?
No.
Okay.
The concern is taking this to a bond and then not passing, is Orchard left with nothing.
Okay, but nothing being what? Like no co-op, no
Right,
anything?
Right.
Will it be at least a 2-year co-op?
Well,
the thing is we know what our numbers are, and we know that we are not running efficiently. So we are looking more into a consolidation every year that goes by, because we cannot financially do this forever. So that's why we want to consolidate. We want to make it, and I don't get why we're so eager to co-op and throw our kids into sports, but then still have the same taxes, the same thing that we've been doing for years and years and years. Oh, and we co-op, so we run over here, and then we run over there, and then we run over here. We got to decide where the games are going to be. We got to decide all this stuff for 6 years. Okay, well, but, okay, so I must be misunderstanding you.
That bond process takes longer. Who knows how long it could take to build a new school? We just didn't want to have to come back in 2 years and have something else to decide.
Okay, and I get what you're saying there, yes, but there's no guarantees with a co-op. There's no guarantees with the consolidation. You have to go every couple of years, because if the consolidation isn't going to work, then we have to think of other schools or we have to consolidate somewhere at some point in time, just because efficiently we're not going to be able to do this anymore. So it doesn't make sense to have a sports co-op with Orchard when we're consolidated with Chambers or Pope John or something like that. You know, that's what I'm saying.
That's why we were hoping you continue to work with us and not do that.
Okay, which I get, yeah, absolutely, but when you say continue to work with us, you're saying like next year you could eventually change your community into wanting to build. Is that what you're trying to say to me, that it's going to be that long of a process? Or it could be, is that what you're potentially thinking?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, but a 6-year co-op is that, I see. A 6-year co-op makes sense, but a 2-year, okay, yeah.
Well, there's going to be risk involved for all three communities. Not a pleasant thought. I've been through reorganization a couple of times. I understand what you're saying. I think the 2-year co-op is a good idea, and I don't see that we'd probably see these other boards change their mind unless something drastic happened without extending it every 2 years. But ultimately, back to what Kenny is saying, we have to come to the realization of where we are at, the populations we have for students, the intent to go on. The longer we delay, the more it's going to cost. There's risk inherent in every challenge that we take on right now. You all know that. This is another one in good faith, where the three of you put it together, make a good faith effort to pull it down one way or the other. If you have a bond issue, it turns down, you go back to where you were, you start talking again, I suppose. I don't think it's going to leave. Someone else may come knocking on the door from one of the others along the way. But if you start to decide your fate now, you're at least making an effort to know where you're headed.
Well, I guess I was just going to say my concern with a 6-year co-op, or that commitment, is if the bond don't pass, you're going to continue. You got what you wanted, the school in your town and a sports co-op. Are you going to push for the bond to pass? You go out and re-educate the public, or figure out why didn't the bond pass? You know.
Yeah, it's just important for us to have that plan B. So if it doesn't pass, we wait 6 months and we do the bond over. And like I said, at some point, if you have to say, okay, this bond isn't going through, we want to keep working together as to what is the plan B, what are we going to do? So we just thought a longer co-op fit that future plan B. No, we're not. We weren't just looking for, I think it kind of backfired on us. We were just trying to be more proactive in our plan B, because the plan B is very important to us. That's really all it was.
Just kind of to follow up on what Mr. Hellman said there as well, I just took a look at our enrollments at all 3 schools. I think Orchard is the 14th smallest district right now. Our enrollment-wise school, I guess, in the state. Ewing's like the 15th smallest, Clearwater's the 22nd smallest. Our numbers are not real good right now, and so that is one of the strong reasons why I do think we need to look to the future, and something like this is pretty important.
Any other comments?
I don't have a comment. I'll make a motion. Is that a comment?
I would move that Ewing Clearwater Orchard Activities Co-op to begin the 1920 seasons, with the exception of football. I would move to approve a co-op in the following activities for the 2019-20 and 2021 school years, contingent upon a successful consolidation board vote by all three school boards in item B of this agenda. Activities for co-op include volleyball, girls basketball, boys basketball, wrestling, boys golf, girls and boys track, not to include speech, play production, or music.
Can I say something? Greg alluded to this earlier. This bond is not going to pass or fail until the fall. This sports co-op, they need to start working on tomorrow. So how can the sports co-op be contingent on the passage of a bond?
The motion says contingent upon successful consolidation board vote
That's not the way you worded your motion.
by
You
all three
worded it-
school boards.
You said passage of the bond. You read it off of here and you said passage of the bond. Am I wrong?
No, you read it off.
I can read it again.
Ed,
Moved by Norby, seconded by Funk to approve a co-op. First of all, did we miss any activities? I know football's not on there, but that's because we have to finish our second year
And
commitment.
I apologize, I misunderstood. I thought I heard you say passage of the bond, and it's not timeline.
Doesn't say that.
I don't have that piece of paper in front of me.
It's contingent upon successful consolidation board vote by all three school boards in item B of this agenda. Activities for the co-op include volleyball, girls basketball, wrestling, boys golf, girls and boys track and field, not to include speech, play production, or music.
I had a motion from Ed. I had a second from Pete. Is there anything on our board? No discussion. Let's vote.
Gina.
Yeah, give me a minute.
I'm just gonna say, what you're saying to me, can I have this please? What you're saying to me is if I vote yes, then I agree to a co-op. But their board, that board, and our board has to pass item B on the agenda, which states that discussion and possible action on school consolidation. So both boards need to move forward with talks on consolidation and putting together a bond and an RFP. Otherwise, my vote is null and void if either one of these, and we're not going to form a co-op with the one that does say yes or anything like that. Okay. I say yes.
Ed? Yes. Mark?
Yes.
Jason? Jeremy? Pete? Carried 6-0.
Okay, I'd just like to clarify that we do co-op speech and play production. And I would agree that speech could be left separate. I don't know that they travel a whole bunch for speech now. But I don't know, that's my thoughts, is they don't travel a lot for speech now, but as far as play production, doesn't sound like Ewing wants to travel, so we need to discuss if play production is in there. So if we do the same motion, we could leave all three of those out for now, and then we could do
play production.
right. Right. Personally, I think speech could be left by itself, but okay. So right. We don't have to do that tonight either. But is there any discussion from the board, my board? Does anyone want to make a motion? Yep. You have your
Okay, I'll make a motion, we need a second, to approve the co-op and the following activities for the 2019-20 and the 2021 school years, contingent upon the successful consolidation board vote by all three school boards in item B of this agenda. Activities for co-op include volleyball, girls basketball, boys basketball, wrestling, boys golf, girls and boys track and field. Okay, not to include speech, play production, or music. We need a second.
I'll second that.
motion by Marty, seconded by Tom. Okay, Tom?
Aye.
Marty? Aye. Stephen?
Aye.
Brian? Passes 5-0.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve a co-op in the following activities for the 1920 and 2021 school years, contingent upon successful consolidation board vote by all three school boards in item B of this agenda. Activities for co-op include volleyball, girls basketball, boys basketball, wrestling, boys golf, girls and boys track and field, not to include speech, play production, or music.
Motion by Nate, second by Christie. I'll vote aye. Christie?
Aye.
Deanna? Nate?
Aye.
Sorry. Terry?
Aye.
Tara?
Nay.
Passes 5-1.
there any need for further discussion on 7B, discussion of possible actions on school consolidation? If not, I need a motion to approve the consolidation of the Ewing School District, Orchard School District, and Clearwater School District effective July 1st, 2020, contingent upon a successful bond vote in all three districts. I need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Pete makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Ed will second it.
That date is listed as July 1st, 2020. That was, we thought that your unification agreement would run out June 30th of 2020. You think it's June 1st?
I've got the agreement, but you didn't say. June 4th. It's 7 years and 1 day, and this was done on June 3rd.
So June 4th is the last day?
Yes. That would be the next. June 3rd is the end.
So June 4th would be the first day.
I'd make the motion to approve the consolidation of the Ewing School District, Orchard School District, Clearwater School District, effective June 1st, 2020, contingent upon a successful bond vote in all three districts.
You all right how that was worded, Ed? June 4th?
Yes.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Let's vote.
Ed?
Yes.
Mark?
Yeah.
Jason? Jeremy? Pete?
Yes.
Gina? Carried 6-0.
Motion by Brian King to approve the consolidation of the Ewing School District, Orchard School District, and Clearwater School District, effective June 4th, 2020, contingent upon a successful bond vote in all three districts. Seconded by Amy Teal.
Marty? Aye. Steven? Brian? Tom? Passes 5-0.
Moved by Krista Shutt, seconded by Candace Hope, to approve the consolidation of Ewing School District, Orchard School District, and Clearwater School District effective June 4th, contingent upon the successful bond vote in all three districts.
Aye. Christie?
Aye.
Deanna?
Aye.
Nate? Terry? Tara? Passes 4-2.
Seven C, discussion and possible action to proceed with an RFP for an architect, construction manager, at-risk company, and financial agent. How do we proceed with that?
I guess, Mark, I feel the first step in that is to, we probably all need to look at approving an attorney, unless someone else feels differently.
That's what Ted just whispered in my ear.
If you agree to an attorney, that's probably the first step. I know that, Ewing's had KSB in the past, we've had Reckner, but, I personally don't have any problem with KSB if that's okay with you guys, or whoever wants to have whoever, it doesn't matter to me, so. Maybe the board has a different feeling, but KSB's been good for us with the other things we did when neither was involved, because other two schools.
I would agree with that. I think they've got a lot of experience here with school consolidations and building projects, and I think that would be a good one to use right now. So I think too that being legal counsel involved, as we're talking contracts and agreements, that's a logical step.
Any thoughts on doing a legal counsel first?
Can we do that without it being on the agenda?
I think what you're saying is you agree all three districts to use KSB to do these things, to proceed with the RFP for an architect, the construction manager, and a fiscal agent to get the ball rolling, to get some of these, numbers and answers that we have. And I have to assume it. What's that? And the attorney's going to draw it up, and also at the same time, I assume they would be starting to put together a consolidation agreement. Since we, voted to approve pursuing consolidation. But you're right. I think the attorney is the first thing that has to be done.
Are you agreeable with KSB? Or you want to stick with who Unified has now, or I guess?
You guys are paying Bill, it's fine.
They know our address, so. KSB works? So we need to make a motion to use KSB law firm to proceed with an RFP for an architect, construction manager, risk, and a financial agent. Do I have that motion?
I got a question.
Yeah.
I guess I can talk about it.
Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think
You need an RFP to
our
hire this way.
agents are
Sure you want to
pass.
pass it that way.
He says he's not sure you need
I don't believe you need an RFP to hire a fiscal agent, so I'm not sure you want to word your motion that way.
okay. So we need a motion to proceed with an RFP for an architect and construction manager at risk. Is that how you want that worded? Leave the financial agent off?
It's up to you.
You know more than I on this, I'll take your word for it. Was that how it's, okay, so I need to reword this.
But I wonder,
But I wondered, do we need a fiscal agent on board? Or yeah, a fiscal financial agent on board, to help us through this process? If we don't need an RFP on that, that's fine, but I think we all need to agree in some fashion that we want to have a financial agent on board with us at this time.
I think too that is, if you're talking about this going to a vote of the people, that fiscal agent is going to be working on that, starting that campaign as far as information for the public on what that's going to mean. So I would say yes, I do think we need to have that, but just don't put it as an RFP, because that you can just select someone.
That's someone like Tobin that was here.
not gonna go with Tobin, how do you go about interviewing, or how do you get, what do you put out there to interview for the financial agent?
Our phone will start ringing tomorrow, our email will start, because it's tomorrow.
And then you're gonna select those people to come in and talk to you in percent from company A, company B, company C, and then you people are gonna say, we wanna go with company B.
I agree with Mr. Appleby, but I think a good starting point would be to have an administrator or multiple administrators call their schools that have been through projects and see who they used and ask for references that way, build a short list and interview it. An RFP process is gonna stretch out selection longer than I think some folks might want.
When you say administrators, are you talking the superintendent's doing this, or are you talking the principal's doing this? Because we need to have everybody on the board, that just, the two principals aren't doing it and leaving one out. I wanna make sure all principals are aware of what's going on, or we having the two superintendents do this.
I'm not doing it without them being involved.
Well, just reflecting back on the last venture that Ewing and Clearwater had together, we had all administrators together when we did those things, to select those, get those RFPs out, review the documents, so we're all involved. So yeah, I don't think anyone's gonna be left out, if that's your question, Chris, I think that's what it was.
Okay, so how do I need to word this motion so we're covered here? We want to proceed with an RFP for an architect and construction manager at risk company, and obtain KSB law firm to hire a financial agent. Somebody tell me the wording how to do this.
I guess to me, what you're saying there, Mark, is just like the item C says, after at-risk company, and direct administrators to start acquiring information for a selection process, financial agent, is what I.
So your motion, I think, is gonna say, move by, second by, to approve using KSB law firm to proceed with an RFP for an architect and construction manager at risk company, period. Also, to direct school administration to begin a selection process in selecting a financial agent.
Great, do I have a motion? I'm not gonna try and repeat all that again. It's on camera. Jason made the motion, do I have a second? Pete seconded. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Mark?
Yes.
Jason? Jeremy? Pete? Gina? Ed?
Yes.
Would somebody like to make that motion from Clearwater?
I'll make a motion.
Marty makes the same motion that Greg read off. Do I have a second? Tom seconds. Aye. Stephen?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Tom? Marty?
Okay, I will make a motion to hire KSB to do an RFP for an architect, construction manager at risk company, and appoint administration to hire a financial agent? Did I get that right? To begin the selection process for a financial agent. Okay. Do I have a second? Christie's gonna second. Aye. Christie? Aye. Deanna? Nate? Aye. Terry? Aye. Tara? Okay. Aye. 6-0.
Before we adjourn, I'd like to make a statement. I'm sorry. I have served on this board since 1990. A little over 20 years ago, when we unified, I had to make the vote to close the Royal School. Never ever did I think I would be in a position to close the Orchard School. However, now that the motion has been made and passed, I will work on this project positively and do everything I can. That's all I can do. Thank you.
Any other comments or discussions?
In regards to the last part of that motion about the administration moving forward with the selection process for a fiscal agent, is the idea to reconvene all three boards for every decision, or does it make sense to have some conversation about forming subcommittees, whether that's here or each individual's board following this?
I would think that'd be something you could discuss at your next meeting, maybe get that on your agenda and get a couple people together for a committee or something. I guess that'd be probably how to proceed. Get a couple members from each board to form a committee to kind of meet with some of these things.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we have committees in place, but we can redo our committee, and I think from just visiting with you, I think it would be recommended that a lot of the legwork is done at committee and then brought to the full boards, you know, at certain points in time. So I would say at our advisory meeting.
You know, and then at any point in that conversation where it gets, you know, there's something that that committee doesn't want to handle, then it can be passed on to full boards or all three boards together to discuss, you know. And
right.
I mean, as it stands now, this fiscal agent thing's gonna require all 18 of us getting back together, right?
let's have it be warmer when we do that.
Not getting back together till May.
And then also with that, you know, remember we passed 7A, which is the co-op, okay, which means that the athletic directors are going to have to go to work on some things, and there will be issues that they will be bringing to the boards to discuss. And I don't want to open that can of worms here today, but there will be those things that we will have to bring to the boards that they'll have to make the decisions on.
Do we need to set up a time to try to figure out what a plan B is, just in case?
Is that something we do all together, or, you know, we go back to our own board, discuss with our own boards, you know, what our ideas are for Plan B, what your ideas are for Plan B, you know, and
That's
go
what
back.
I would say, is just everybody go back and discuss it with their own boards, set up a time that we all come back and have a workshop or something, and sit down and figure that out.
like Ted just said, sometime we can get KSB up here to talk to us about some things and, kind of get us all together at that point. Sound good? Any other thoughts or discussion?
Someone has to tell us, you know, what to do next, so I would think the lawyers would be the first ones to say, this is where you need to go with this.
Yeah.
And we bring on financial agent, and they'll probably be able to help us lead us down that road too.
Anything else?
I'd like to comment one thing. By the time you get this all going, I might try retirement again, but I want to say one thing for you folks, all of you. It is possible to run out of students, and the state forces you to reorganize. It can happen. What you're doing here tonight gets in the way of that, puts it together like it should be. Neighbors doing the right thing and trying to keep things together. I've been through a rather forced consolidation effort. This sounds, I know it's been difficult for you, but this sounds like a whole lot better choice than a school I was formerly at, what happened to them. So I congratulate you for your moves tonight. One other thing, Mr. Schindler reminds me, I got a great deal for you. I'd even help you put together a 4-day school week that would rival anyone in the state in their 20-some schools doing it.
Better than you thought, right?
We'll decide that at a later date. If there's no more discussion, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Ed made the motion. Do I have a second?
Jason? Yes. Jerry? Yes. Pete? Gina? Ed? Yes. Mark? Yes.
Anything else from Clearwater? The Clearwater Original Board meeting at 8:23.
I'll adjourn the Orchard Original Board meeting 8:23. Thanks again for coming.
Thanks, everybody.